deprive that kind of level, I believe.
Dr. Nagao, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Well, in a deadly airstrike in Yemen, U.S. military attacked on a key oil terminal controlled by the Houthi rebels. The strikes have killed at least 80 people and wounded 171 others. The attack targeting the Ras Isa terminal on Yemen's Red Sea coast was part of U.S. efforts to cut off resources funding the Iran-backed Houthis. The U.S. military insists the strikes aim to cripple the group's fuel supply and called it a necessary measure against terrorist activities. However, the Houthis have condemned the strikes as a war crime, claiming the terminal was a civilian facility. Let's listen in to what was said.
هو ميناء مدني ميناء نفطي مدني يتم وصول السفن البترولية والمازوت والغاز ويتوزع على جميع أنحاء الجمهورية اليمنية. ليس ميناء عسكريا ولسنا حمقى أو أغبياء أن نذهب إلى الموانئ بقواتنا وأسلحتنا.
And this comes amid an ongoing conflict that has seen intensified U.S. and Houthi actions, including missile and drone attacks on Israel and U.S. military assets. The strikes have sparked protests in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, while Iran condemned the attacks as barbaric. And after the strikes, Houthis announced that they will retaliate against the United States. Let's listen in to what was said.
ونجحت دفاعاتنا الجوية في إسقاط طائرة أمريكية النوع MQ-9 أثناء قيامها بتنفيذ أعمال عدائية في أجواء محافظة صنعاء، وذلك بصاروخ أرض جو محلي الصنع. إن الحشد العسكري الأمريكي واستمرار العدوان على بلدنا لن يؤدي إلا إلى المزيد من عمليات التصدي والاستهداف والاشتباك والمواجهة.
All right, Mr. Yassi Cooper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert, is joining us at this point in time. Thank you so much, Yassi, for being here. Well, what do you make of this new pledge by the Houthis saying that they will retaliate towards the Americans? The Americans have given them a warning on a number of occasions in the past as well. Why should this come as a surprise?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, yes, the Houthis want to keep fighting, and we have to be prepared and charge them with heavy prices for their intention to keep harming the free maritime movement in the Red Sea and to hit Israel and to hit the Americans who are trying to protect the freedom of maritime movement in the maritime shipping in the Red Sea. And we see that in spite of the heavy losses that they suffer, they insist on continuing doing that. So they probably have to pay a heavier price for them being convinced to stop it.
Well, do you think it is possible for the Americans to bring this arbitrary, rampage that the Houthis have been on to a complete halt?
Yes, it's possible, but it's not easy. And we know that the Americans are in that for a month now, and they probably need more time. At the end of the day, with all the damage inflicted on the Houthis day in, day out, there's going to come a day when they are going to say enough is enough. The people in the areas controlled by the Houthis are going to say so. And we see that they are getting weaker every day. And this even serves as an incentive for their opponents from within Yemen to try and consider the possibility of taking over some of their territory, including some of their ports. So the situation is very problematic, and I guess that eventually, when there's enough pressure put on them, they will reconsider their policy.
Well, sir, there is also conversations going on, with the Americans. There are conversations going on in Rome at this point in time as well. Iran is also a substantial part of this entire conflict. Their nuclear capabilities is also something which Donald Trump feels need to be cut down, because he thinks, and he's of the opinion, that they're extremists, and no extremists can have access to any kind of a nuclear arsenal. Do you think that these conversations will also have some sort of a cascading effect on how the Houthis and how these fringe terrorist organizations, these proxy organizations, have been functioning?
Yes, in two senses. First of all, the American attack on the Houthis is in a way a message to the Iranians that, look, if you insist on moving forward with the nuclear project, you might be facing a similar fate like that of the Houthis, and even worse than that, so take this into consideration. And on the other hand, for the Iranians, they want to make sure that the Houthis keep fighting, because this for them serves as a message to the United States. There is a price to pay for putting pressure on Iran. So it's, both sides are interested in the continuation of the fight between America and the Houthis. And of course, the focus is more on what's happening in Rome this time exactly, when the Iranians have to realize that if they insist on keeping the nuclear project active, as they had in the last couple of years after the JCPOA, this is going to be costly and eventually may lead to a military offensive against their nuclear infrastructure, which is something they want to avoid. And we shall see if this is going to be good enough in order to convince the Iranians to accept a deal that would really put an end to the nuclear project, or if they're going to insist on keeping the nuclear project alive, and then we'll see what the Americans are going to do about that.
And so, how is Israel looking at these negotiations as well as this escalation of war and hostilities between the Americans and the Houthis?
Well, basically, we trust the United States to try to reach a satisfactory result of all these events, to convince the Houthis to stop launching missiles in our direction and to interfere with the freedom of maritime movement in the Red Sea, and to make sure that the Iranians give up on their nuclear project in a way that would not form any threat of them having a nuclear arsenal in the future. We trust the Americans to do that, but we trust and we suspect. That's, I would say, that the situation. We trust the Americans, but we suspect that they might be tempted by the Iranians, who are very good negotiators, just like the Americans, to accept something that is short of what needs to be reached in order to satisfy the United States and Israel.
All right.
This suspicion is in the back of our minds all the time.
Sir, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Moving on, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is